In Solo Leveling, Yuri Orlov, seeing Japan in dire state, demands an outrageous fee of $10 million per day, totaling a staggering $3.6 billion a year. Yuri, sensing their desperation, reminds them of their precarious situation, insisting they should be grateful and begging him for help. When asked if he's truly confident in his abilities, Yuri showcases his power by effortlessly restraining two S-rank hunters with chains, leaving them no choice but to trust him. Meanwhile, Jinwoo prepares for his visit to the Cartenon Temple. As he's about to leave, his mother asks if there's anything she should worry about. Jinwoo reassures her, saying he just has some appointments before stepping outside. Using the key, the temple's location is revealed to him. He immediately heads to the raid site. Upon arrival, he inquires if anyone has entered the dungeon, and the person in charge informs him that the strike squad went in hours ago. Realizing the danger, Jinwoo advises them to call the squad back, but he doesn't wait. He enters the dungeon himself, quickly catches up to the strike squad, and tells them to leave the rest to him. Jinwoo catches up with the strike squad inside the dungeon and immediately warns them that the place is dangerous, advising them to leave at once. He then uses the key to open the gate to the Cartenon Temple. Despite his warning, the hunters are reluctant to leave, especially after coming so far. They remind Jinwoo that although he's an S rank, they purchased the entry permit, so they believe he has no right to interfere. But as one hunter attempts to enter the temple, a guard suddenly strikes at him with a sword. Jinwoo swiftly pulls the hunter back, saving him from a fatal blow. This shocking display makes the rest of the squad reconsider. No one dares to enter the dungeon anymore. Jinwoo tells them to leave and contact the Hunters Association, as a double dungeon has appeared. As Jinwoo enters deeper into the temple, he's flooded with memories of the past, but remains determined that this time, things will be different. He notices that everything inside seems lifeless, like puppets, until he stands before the only source of magic in the room. He demands that it reveal itself, and at that moment, the stone tablet's figures give him a sinister smile, saying, "At last you've arrived." Yuri Orlov arrives in Japan to assist the Japanese Hunters Association with the S-rank gate that appeared in Shinjuku. At the airport, reporters bombard him with questions about his plan to handle the situation. Yuri confidently replies that he'll manage it as he always does. Back in Korea, Gunhee is watching this unfold from his office. Jinchul asks Gunhee if he believes Yuri can actually block the S-rank gate. Gunhee replies he isn't sure about Yuri's chances, but is aware of the consequences if he fails. The conversation then shifts to Jinwoo, with Gunhee inquiring about his recent activities. Jinchul starts updating him, but is interrupted by a phone call from a raid site. The caller informs him that a double dungeon has appeared at the school where orcs recently attacked. Inside the dungeon, Jinwoo finds himself face-to-face with a mysterious and eerie figure. Jinwoo questions whether this being is a monster and why it summoned him there. The figure, however, responds cryptically, suggesting that Jinwoo is asking the wrong questions. Instead of inquiring about the figure's identity, Jinwoo should be more concerned with understanding who he himself truly is. The figure then ominously declares that Jinwoo must prepare for the final test. Jinwoo faces his final test set by the mysterious figure. As Jinwoo prepares to summon his army, the figure snaps its fingers, canceling Jinwoo's summoning ability along with all other system privileges. The figure declares that it's only interested in Jinwoo's personal strength, not the power of his summons. Realizing the challenge ahead, Jinwoo accepts the terms, summoning his dagger instead. One of the stone soldiers attacks him, but Jinwoo quickly grabs the soldier's sword, snaps it in half, and hurls it back, taking the soldier down. Jinwoo then engages in a fierce battle with the other stone soldiers, leaping through the air and countering every move they make, dismantling them one by one. As Jinwoo fights, he reflects on how far he has come since his last encounter in this place. The mysterious figure watches, intrigued by how much Jinwoo has achieved, even with the limitations of a human body. But just as Jinwoo thinks the fight is nearing its end, the figure grins sinisterly, and the statue of the god begins to move, signaling that the real battle is just beginning. The Japanese Hunters Association chairman approaches Gunhee, requesting a meeting with Jinwoo and offering mana crystals from Jeju Island as compensation. Gunhee, however, points out that Jinwoo isn't affiliated with the Hunter Association, so he can't make any promises. He then suggests continuing the conversation without the translator. Once the translators were outside, Gunhee's composure broke. He wanted to kill the man who orchestrated the ploy at the Jeju raid, hoping to wipe out the S-rank Korean hunters, but he didn't want a nation to suffer for what one man did. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Jinwoo battles an endless swarm of stone soldiers. Realizing he needs to defeat the powerful enemy to turn the tide, he focuses on taking down the biggest threat. As his Dominator's touch evolves into Commander's touch, Jinwoo dodges a laser beam and leaps onto the enemy's shoulder. He uses mutilation, but when that doesn't finish the job, he resorts to brute force, exploiting the enemy's weak spots until he finally takes it down. Jinwoo then confronts the mysterious figure, demanding to know if the figure will keep his promise and reveal his identity. The figure responds with a cryptic remark, revealing himself as the Architect, and insists that Jinwoo's test isn't over yet. After hearing about a double dungeon, Jinchul quickly gathered 7 elite hunters and headed to the gate. Upon arriving, he immediately sensed a bone-chilling aura from the dungeon. dungeon and realized his team might not be enough to handle the situation. Desperate for extra help, he put out an emergency quest, hoping that an S-class hunter would respond. Inside the dungeon, Jinwoo was in a tough battle against the architect. Despite giving it his all, Jinwoo found himself being overpowered. The architect was simply too strong, and Jinwoo was taking a serious beating. Time was running out, and Jinwoo knew he couldn't afford to lose. Just then, the architect sent him flying into a wall, leaving him coughing up blood. The architect was amused to see Jinwoo still putting up a fight. He hadn't expected any human to be that strong. As Jinwoo struggled to his feet, he demanded to know why the architect hadn't answered his questions. The architect calmly replied, saying that if Jinwoo was worried about not getting answers, he shouldn't be. He assured Jinwoo that he would get his answers, even if he killed him, because everything was predetermined. Jinwoo demanded answers from the architect, but the architect assured him he'd get them eventually. However, Jinwoo wasn't interested in waiting. He asked the architect how he was able to give him such powers and why he had chosen Jinwoo. The architect revealed that he hadn't chosen Jinwoo and was, in fact, against the idea. He explained that he was merely the architect and moderator of the player leveling system and didn't have a say in who to choose. As time ticked down, Jinwoo realized that if he wanted to defeat the architect, he would have to face him head-on. Seeing Jinwoo exceeding his expectations, the architect decided not to hold back anymore. He unleashed his full power and launched an all-out attack. But suddenly, Jinwoo experienced a strange sensation. His senses heightened, and he could not only see the attacks coming, but dodge them effortlessly. Seeing Jinwoo effortlessly avoid his attacks, the architect became confused, frustrated, and even terrified. Jinwoo then severed one of the architect's arms, but before he could finish him off, a stone soldier from before interrupted. Jinwoo quickly dispatched the soldier with a flying elbow to the head, and then leaped at full speed towards the architect, cutting off his hands and slamming him into the wall. In the next moment, Jinwoo had his dagger pressed against the architect's throat, forcing him to admit defeat. After Jinwoo defeated the architect and completed the final test, the architect pointed at him and told him that the answers he was seeking were within himself. At that moment, a panel appeared in front of Jinwoo, asking if he would like to access the data stored in his memories. After thinking for a moment, Jinwoo accepted, and suddenly, a bright light surrounded him. When he opened his eyes, Jinwoo found himself floating in the sky, looking down on an enormous army of monsters, orcs, ice elves, and various other creatures. They were all gazing up at the sky, and Jinwoo turned to see what had captured their attention. As he looked down at the army, he realized that if these monsters ever emerged from a gate, humanity would have no chance of surviving an attack of this scale. Suddenly, the sky shattered, and beings in silver armor with wings began to come out of it. In a moment, thousands of them filled the sky, turning it completely white. Jinwoo quickly understood what was going on as a monster blew a battle horn, signaling both sides to charge at each other. The battlefield quickly turns red with the clash of swords and screams filling the air. The silver soldiers dominate the battle, quickly killing the monsters, but then they all stop as a single figure approaches them. The silver soldiers were winning the battle against the monsters, cutting them down with ease. However, everything changed when a mysterious figure appeared. He commanded, "Arise," in the most badass way possible, and the battlefield was covered in darkness as he summoned his immortal army. He brought back all the fallen. Looking down on the battle, Jinwoo couldn't believe his eyes as he saw the Monarch of Shadows summon all those soldiers. Jinwoo realized he was nowhere near him. The battlefield was once again raging as both sides once again prepared for the battle. The black and silver army entangled in battle. The silver soldier should have won the battle, but the Shadow army continued the cycle of death and revival until their enemies were on the ground. Wherever the monarch went, destruction followed him. It was looking like no one could defeat him, and victor was within sight until they showed up. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Jinchul, Cha, Beak Choi, and the rest are shocked by the scene before them. The architect, annoyed by these uninvited guests, tells them to shut up and not disturb the king's rest. When a hunter tries to speak up, the architect promptly cuts him down, declaring that the rest will make excellent offerings for the king. Follow for more.